The Jordan says, "I'm with you on the small wooden churches, but I do love the larger than life architecture that baffles the mind." I'm with you on that,
All
brother.
right.
No,
Yeah.
and I'm not. If anybody loves a cathedral, I'm not. You are not required to hate cathedrals because they're
Yeah.
Catholic. I'm
It's a
not.
building.
It's a
It's a
building,
building.
yeah. And if you
Amen.
want to
Yeah.
appreciate the building and the architecture, the
Yeah.
design,
Amen.
nobody's going to fault you for that.
No.
And but it was a question in my mind as to whether I was sort of obligated to dislike these things because because they're Catholic.
Oh,
But I totally understand, and I hope you
yeah.
didn't think that I'm dogging anyone who
No.
likes to enjoy a beautiful building.
It's your spiritual antenna that goes up when you know what these people are doing when they go
Yeah,
in that church
yeah,
and what they're being taught,
right.
right?
Would it?
That's where you're disgust, I
Right,
guess. Maybe that's not a good
right.
word, but saying, God, that's just an abomination,
Right. I
you
mean, would
know?
it be wrong for us to appreciate the design of the Mormon tabernacle?
Oh, no.
Would that be,
No.
but it's hard for me mentally. It's hard for me to separate the
Yeah.
tabernacle from Mormon
From what
because
they stand
from what
for.
it
Yeah,
stands for,
yeah,
and I have
exactly.
that. I have that.
I've been there,
I
brother. I know.
oh,
I
is it?
know.
You've been there to the
Well, no,
Mormon?
in Windermere they have the
Oh
building
yes,
out
I've
in
seen that.
Windermere, right?
Yeah, you've been
And
inside that.
and so I couldn't. Every time I saw that building, I had to turn my head away from it,
Oh, I think
because
the outside of that
I
building
knew
is
what was.
beautiful.
Yeah, the outside, but I'm thinking
Yeah,
about what's going on the
I
inside.
know. I
Yeah,
know. Yeah,
that's hard to make. To divide that and say, okay, the building's beautiful, but what goes on inside that building is not,
yeah.
right?
This to
That's
me,
that's a hard thing.
architecture is very similar to, how should Christians view art? Is it okay to appreciate a
Yeah,
work of art if you know that the artist is a total
yeah,
psychotic nut job?
I
You
got
know,
you. Yeah.
and even with Christian art,
Hmm.
I have seen, like, if I showed you a painting, some sort of painting representing the kingdom, and you've got Mary and the child, and in the background's this golden painting, and it's okay, sort of, but is it okay? But what if I told you that that painting was actually painted by Hitler,
Hmm.
tiny mustache man? Well, would your feelings
Right.
about that painting itself change
Yes.
knowing that Hitler actually painted that before his rise to power and his
Hmm.
yeah, it would. You would
Yeah.
never hang that painting up in your house knowing who had painted it. And
Yes.
sometimes I have that same problem with art
Hmm.
and with
Yeah.
and with architecture too. And I think it's an interesting question to ask. And I think art and architecture, I can have it's okay. I can deal with that a lot more than Christian art, because if you can, and there is, like, Mormons have some phenomenal Christian art
Hmm.
that really beautifully expresses moments in the Gospels, and I love the art. But I
Hmm.
couldn't hang it up in my house knowing it was a
Knowing
Mormon
it was
thing,
that. Yeah. Exactly.
so, okay, if that's a problem, then how discerning must you be about the artist before you can accept the art?
Mm.
Can you just accept the art at face value for what it is and what it expresses, without having to let your opinion be filtered through with knowing who and what the artist is,
Hmm.
and Christian art is interesting also in the sense that Christians look at a work of art, and a piece of Christian art, and they will compare that to Scripture, and they will ask
Hmm. Right.
themselves, how biblical is
Yeah.
this?
There you
How
go.
much does this embody this story it is intended to represent? And Lori and I, we went to a museum out in Tampa, and I mean, filled with paintings from the Renaissance
Hmm.
of biblical scenes. And Christians look at that and they compare it to Scripture. And
Yeah.
before they're even willing to accept that art for what it is, then they have to accept how it embodies what they
Hmm.
already know from Scripture.
Exactly.
There's like this thinking process that they go through before they choose to accept that piece of art.
Yeah.
And I think that whole
It's
Christian art thing
it's
is interesting.
yeah, it's almost like Christian songs, and we call it hymnology. Hymnology is not always proper doctrine. So the question, you look at how do you judge that song,
Right.
right?
Right.
Is it by the music that's going on with it, or is it the actual words
Right.
that are in that
Right.
particular song?
Right.
And there, I'm a little bit more strict on judging songs that are so-called Christian
Yeah.
songs to see if they are proper doctrine.
I totally
You
agree.
know,
And I with Christian rock, I willfully choose to not know what the what the band members believe.
right,
You know, I
exactly.
think
You're listening to the words.
because
Yeah,
I know on any
Yeah.
given CD or album, there's going to be a couple of songs
Yeah.
where I'm just like, no, that's just doctrinally bad. But you know, I can appreciate the
Yeah.
ones that are good, that has decent lyrics.
Yeah.
And I choose to be ignorant of what they are.
And the question
I-
is, would you buy that song or that record knowing that the people that sung this song and wrote this song are not saved? Right? Would you still buy that song?
True. That's a good question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
would.
I like that.
would buy that song if it's doctrinally correct.
Right.
I have no problems with unsaved people that are religious people that write that.
Right.
But guess what? It lines up
Right.
with the doctrine.
Right.
Right.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.